All right, hi everybody. Welcome to Tundra Fight School. My name is Tundra, and this is my game. Today we're going to be talking about player anatomy and Bob anatomy. And we're going to be talking about some more IK, and we're going to be talking about throws, takedowns, grappling, and things like that. So why don't we go ahead and start there? Some people from the last video that commented on the last video had questions about the grappling that's going to be in the game. Are we going to be able to do takedowns and throws, and are we going to be able to do groundwork and all this other kind of stuff? So I just wanted to address that real quick and go over that. I do want to get some grappling in the game. I do want to try to get joint locks in the game. I do want to try to get throws and takedowns in the game. How good they'll be, well, it just depends on on how far things go. There are some technical challenges with regard to VR and those things. Some things are just right out. So, for example, groundwork, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style groundwork, is right out. You know, we've got to make some. I've got to make some assumptions with the IK. And some of those assumptions are that the player wants to be in a even like a balanced stance, and that he wants to have a strong vertical center line. And once you hit the ground and start rolling with somebody, all that's pretty much out the window. Plus, with today's tracker technology, to wear like a full rig that does whole body tracking reliably, it's just not time for that yet, I don't think. So this game's going to be stand-up martial arts, um, out of necessity, I guess. So I've got Bob here. Bob is our favorite. Our favorite clone. Bob is an exact clone of the player character. And then he's just got some Bob specific code for mirroring and other things like that. So let's get into the grappling stuff that I wanted to talk about. So first, I do want to say that I have seen some indications that we should be able to put some takedowns and stuff in the game. So for example, I added like a knockout. I can ragdoll Bob. I can kind of knock him out, and that's going to come in real handy for demonstration. But it also comes in handy for the throws and lifts and things like that. So for example. He's not ready to do a bunch of throws yet, but I can do some simple lifts. For example, if I step in on him and then essentially knock him out, then I can pick him up and start carrying him around, and that's pretty cool. Just to be able to do that and manhandle him a little bit, toss him around, and do things is pretty slick. So let me set him back up. Come here, Bob. There we go. All right, and I'll try one more. Let's go with like a fireman's carry. So I'm going to grab, go under here, again, knock him out, pick him up, and see if I can't get him in a good fireman's carry. There we go. So yeah, I do think that some throws are going to make it into the game. The physics is good for it. I think it's just a matter of how well it plays and whether it's worth doing all that kind of stuff. But as far as like the sandbox experience goes, trying to be able to use those physics and grab people and do stuff like lifts and throws and takedowns, I think a lot of that stuff's going to work actually pretty good. Let's see, what else can we do that I can show really quick? I'll tell you, let me hit him with a choke real quick. So if I come up behind him and just try to put slipped, a quick choke on him. There we go, work it in. There we go, nice and tight. All right, Bob, it's sleepy time. And then he's out. Anyway, you get the idea, right? So we should be able to do, like I said, some throws, some takedowns. I'm working really hard on the anatomy, so I think some of the joint locks will come along as well. So why don't we get on that? Why don't we start talking about some of the anatomy and stuff? So here, let me. I need to go get a table to put Bob on. Let me switch to first person. All right, now you can come with me. Okay, so I'm just going to grab one of these boxes and use it as a table. These are really heavy. These are like I think they're 100 kilograms each, something like that. All right, so let's get it over here into the spotlights, and then we'll pick up Bob. Okay, so Bob is really, really heavy. Bob is full mass. I weigh 84 kilograms, and he's pretty much modeled after me. So I'm going to be using force pull to pick him up and manipulate him. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to pick up a person that's just dead weight like that. But it is very, very heavy, and you either have to be extremely strong or you have to have extremely good technique to pull that off. So I'm going to cheat today, and I'm just going to use force pull and pick him up and toss him on the box here. All right, so and now I'll go over some of the joints and some of the anatomy of the character, rigid body positions. Some people may find this interesting, other people I don't know, but I just wanted to go over it real quick anyway. So anyway, he's got a head and a neck that are independent from each other. He's got a shoulder group, which is I still got force pull on him. There we go. Come on, Bob, back on the box. Okay, so he's got a shoulder group, clavicle, scapula, and all the meat. That's all one unit. I don't have it separated like it would be in real life, the shoulder girdle parts and stuff. But in this case, just one solid rigid body piece there. Then we've got an upper arm, obviously elbow, forearm, wrist and hand is kind of one unit, and then the fingers. Each individual finger is independently. It's got three bones essentially, with joints connecting those. Then we've got a chest, midsection, pelvis or hips, upper leg, lower leg, foot, and like a little toe group for several toes. And that's pretty much it. So all those rigid bodies are connected together with mostly configurable joints. I do actually have some hinge joints in there for various reasons, and then some of the joints are actually quite. Some of the joint groups are actually quite complex. So, for example, to model an elbow is really, really easy. You can pretty much get away with a hinge joint or a configurable joint for that, because the motion is so simple. But the motion for a shoulder is actually very, very complex, and it took a while to get something that was believable for the shoulder. The wrist is also fairly complex as well. It does a lot of things that you might not expect. So again, like I mentioned earlier, Bob is full weight. All the different rigid body parts, I try to make realistic weights for those, which makes for some pretty cool effects when you start tossing him around. If I sit him up and he loses balance, or if I toss him around a bit, the ragdoll effect that you get from a full weight rigid body is really, really, one that's got good joints and stuff is just really, really nice. Just looks fantastic when he's tossed around. And when he stands up, so there's no, obviously, or maybe not obviously, but I'm not using any kind of animated fall or anything. He just falls this way. Or he falls like a different way every single time. Every single time he goes down, he's going to fall differently because it's just me turning off the the various forces, motors that are his muscles. Just turning those off, and then he falls. However, for those muscles, I am using some PD controllers or PID controllers. For some of the ones that have some specialty code in them, but for the most part, just driving driving joints with joint torque and joint forces, configurable joint torque and forces. So here's a physics box that I made just to help test some of the physics props that I have, and so it's kind of fun to throw Bob in there. Here, we'll get him some toys to play with while he's in there. There you go, Bob. Some toys to play with. Here, let's get him the kettlebells, too. All right. Kettlebell for you. There you go. All right, so then we'll crank this very satisfying lever. And watch Bob spin around in the tumbler. All right. So yeah, I use this for testing, various physics props. You throw them in here, see if the joints move correctly, if the physics is glitchy, if it's janky, if it clips through objects, if the joints invert or do anything strange. But I don't know. I just find it fascinating to see all the different physics objects bumble around in here, and I don't know. I could watch this all day. So having fun, Bob? Are you having fun? That just that does not look fun. That looks terrible. That looks terrible. All right, so let's get Bob out of there. All right, come on, Bob. Let's get out. All right. Here, check this out. So, like I was saying, Bob is he's full size and weight, and I tried to size him as best I could as well. So he's got the physical proportions. I want to say that they're my physical proportions, but I'm not exactly ripped like that. That was a weird tracking issue. Um, but actually, even the skeleton. Here, let me turn on this, and you can see. So I wanted to get his skeleton right. I mean, his skeleton's not actually being used internally. It's really just a reference skeleton, a visual reference skeleton that I used when I'm building out the character. It helps to put things in the right positions. If you want to figure out where your physics joints and stuff need to be, it's helpful to see where the bones and everything line up. And it's also helpful to fill him out. Make sure his chest is you have to make sure his chest is bigger than his rib cage. You have to make sure that his hips are bigger than his pelvis bones and things like that. So it really helps to use it like a reference skeleton to figure out how big your model should be if you're going for realism, which isn't necessary, of course. But in this case, I like to think it's necessary to get the IK right. So here, let me stand him up again and activate him. His elbow's flipped. There we go. And his wrist is flipped. So this happens all the time. So I'll put some better code in there to resolve that. Usually it resolves on its own, like it did just then. All right, come on over here. All right, so the reason that I say the anatomy is important, if you don't model, like for example, take collarbones. If you don't model, you may think you could just get away with hands and maybe just hands and forearms. But if you really want to get the forearms and the elbows in the right position, you're probably going to have to model at least all the way up to the collarbones as well, because the collarbones have a major impact on how the hands move, what position they're in. When I go down, not so much. When I go out, not so much. But if I go forward or if I go up, then the collarbones have a huge impact on the position of the arms and elbows. So what I've tried to do for the player IK, for the inverse kinematics, for Bob and my character also, because I need my elbows to be in really good position as well. Otherwise, it's not going to sync very well to the motions that I'm making. What I've tried to do is layer a lot of different um, little IK routines on top of all sorts of different information that you get from the trackers. Um, so, I mean, there's a lot of people have asked, how do you do the IK? What system are you using? And it's not somebody else's system. I wanted to make the IK myself just so that I would know how to do it, but also because I wanted to do martial arts specific positions and motions, and I wanted to be able to layer a lot of different IK systems on top of each other to get some subtle movement in there that you might not even notice. Well, here I'll talk about those for a second as well. So, for example, if I move my head just a little bit, there's kind of a dead zone where I don't bother involving the whole torso. I just let the head move a little bit, and that makes it look just a little bit more natural as I'm talking and moving my head around and things like that. There's also some neck, the tilt. There's some tilt to it and some twist to it. There's a tremendous amount of shoulder involvement with the arm movement. There's even torso involvement as well. Like if I crouch, then the torso tilts considerably. If I move the arms back and forth, then the torso, like even if my head's still, and I move my arms back and forth, then the torso shifts, twists back and forth. and even if the position of the footwork matters. So if I've got a lead foot with a lead elbow, this elbow juts out farther than if that foot is a back foot with that same elbow, because you've got this twist in the torso that doesn't allow the shoulder and the elbow to stick out as far. So all these different IK systems, they kind of sit on top of each other and layer together and make for a nice, smooth motion. And it helps the positions a lot as well. One more thing let me talk about is, so for example, if I grab a weapon, one more thing to talk about is as I'm holding this weapon, I may pull it back here towards my shoulder. And you'll notice as I look at Bob and pull this to my shoulder, my head's not really moving, but the torso is. So the torso twists nicely in response to the position of the hand. The hand goes back towards the shoulder, and then the torso twists to avoid the hand because they shouldn't be in the same space together. And that's really, really helpful. Let's say, for example, that I wanted to get into like a fencing position and fence Bob. If I've got this huge target area here, it's going to be much easier for him to hit me, right? So a lot of styles of fencing, you try to get rid of that by turning the upper body and making it very skinny to the opponent, right? So in this case, even though I'm looking straight at Bob, even though I'm looking straight at him, I've got my torso, by putting my hand near the shoulder here, and using that to my advantage, I can say, hey, I can tell the game, I can say, hey, game, you need to move that torso out of the way. So I'm in a much thinner fencing stance, even though the trackers themselves, it's just 3 trackers, they would have a hard time understanding where the position of how the position of the torso differs from or the orientation of the torso differs from the orientation of the head. But by using some logic in the IK code, we can say, hey, turn the torso in a different position than the head, and use that as part of our. Well, you get what I'm saying. It's pretty obvious. So, anyway, I'm kind of babbling. So again, this video is coming to a close. Just wanted to go over Bob anatomy. Wanted to go over some of the IK stuff, and wanted to show you guys the tumbler and pick up Bob and do a little bit of a little throw work. So if you got more questions, you got more comments, if you got more concerns, if you want to see a different style of video or something else, just shoot it in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in today and watching my video, and take care. Be safe.